LSU Governor Jeff Landry's comments on Wednesday have sort of taken over the college football world. It's leading almost everywhere. Our buddy Ross Dellinger, now with Yahoo, good enough to join us, give us a little bit of the national perspective. Delly, how are you, man?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
Busy, as you know and understand. But let's just start with the big picture, 10,000-foot view. What seems to be the national reaction to not only Brian Kelly's firing, but what happened here in the last 24 hours with the governor?
Yeah, I would say, from a national perspective, there's a lot of shell shock. There's a lot of disbelief, I think, from people. I literally, during the news conference on Wednesday, I literally got texts from people who were seeing the comments or watching the videos, asking me if it was a fake. They thought it was a scripted, like some kind of SNL like type of skit. Yeah. And I told them to no, this was very real, and you should come spend a few months or so in South Louisiana, and you'll realize that it's very real, and that's just how it is. So that was the first reaction nationally, and then there was the other reaction, Matt, which is from probably, I would say, the 3 to 5 biggest sports agents who represent coaches in the country, who weighed in with what you'd expect, with the reaction of, do they realize how negative this is impacting the candidate pool? Right now in college football is probably the most time where you need the most alignment between board, president, athletic director, football coach, general manager. You need alignment, you need resources, all of that. And I think that's sort of, especially the alignment piece, is in question now at LSU from probably a lot of candidates. And look, LSU is still a phenomenal job with incredible resources, and they've proven that, having 3 coaches each win a national title, 3 different coaches in a 17-season span. But if you're a coach, sort of like, let's throw out Lane Kiffin, and you have a really good job right now, and you're going to probably get a really big, good contract that's going to be guaranteed, and you have other schools courting you who's going to give you where alignment is better, or is going to give you a long-term security of a contract. I think there's a debate to be made, an argument to be made that LSU is hurting itself, in those sort of decisions for coaches.
Ross, can you elaborate a little bit on, to whatever degree you can, what those conversations are like with agents, from the sense that, look, if LSU is still willing to pay, like, agents are going to have clients that are interested. But if you could maybe just elaborate a little bit there on the reaction from the agent world.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that agents, again, want to see when they sort of put out there, present to a coach, because this is what usually happens, right? You have an agent, he's in between the coach and the school that's sort of courting the coach, and there's communication between both sides, and the agent has to be the one that presents all the information to the coach, and that's about not just contract stuff, but other decisions around alignment around the university. And I should say, as part of this conversation, is at the center sort of the conversation should be Trace Armstrong. He's the agent for Brian Kelly. He's also, Matt, the agent for probably a dozen or more sitting college FBS head coaches, along with several more coordinators and assistants and G5 head coaches. So Trace is dealing with a situation right now, apparently, with Brian Kelly's buyout, of where the school, whether it's because the governor or the board or whoever, is insistent, right, that they not pay the full fare, the full $53 million. So you can imagine the situation if Trace is recommending or not recommending jobs to his clients, how that may impact, how this situation may impact that, right? And then you've got the biggest agent, Jimmy Sexton, who has probably most of the coaches in the SEC, and most of the coaches, including Lane Kiffin, that LSU would probably have its eye on, right? And more than anybody that I've sort of been around and heard from, Jimmy is not a stupid guy, right? He's made a lot of money and has a lot of big clients for a reason, and that's putting his coaches in places where they can succeed through whatever resources and, again, alignment. And let me just tell you, all those guys I just mentioned, they were paying attention yesterday to the news conference.
Ross Dellinger's with us. Ross, to whatever degree you know, how is Scott Woodward perceived nationally?
I think a few different ways. Obviously, it's going to depend on the person, right? But I think there's probably two main thoughts when you poll people or talk to people around the country, whether you're talking to coaches, administrators, commissioners, agents, about Scott Woodward. One is the guy hires big name coaches who usually win, right? He's very successful hires. Chris Peterson at Washington was one of the more successful sort of hires in getting him there from Boise State in the last 15 years of college football. If you look at Chris Peterson's record, I think this year he's up for the Hall of Fame. You look at Jimbo Fisher, and look, I mean, I know Jimbo was fired at the end. At one point, he went 9-1 and was one game away from the SEC championship and potentially the national title. And then, obviously, what Scott did at LSU, he hired Jay Johnson, won a baseball championship. Kim Mulkey won a women's basketball championship. And Brian Kelly probably didn't work out as they wanted, but also Brian Kelly won 34 games in 3.5 years. So it's not like LSU was sitting at 1-7, when Brian Kelly was fired. So I think from a national perspective, he's thought of as going to get, the big shot, the big name who usually wins. There's another part, Matt, and I think that's the money part. I think Scott is known, especially among his colleagues, as somebody who pushes the envelope and pushes them and escalates salaries around the country because of the contracts that he executes. And now we're seeing, obviously, a local politician there, the top elected politician in the state of Louisiana, also have a problem with that.
So, which is a great segue, because I wanted to ask if you feel it's possible to negotiate a contract for the next LSU coach that is sort of as the governor recommended, right? Incentive laden, maybe backloaded, bonus oriented or structured. Is it possible, Ross, to offer that kind of a contract and attract a top candidate?
Well, that's a great question. I'll take off my unbiased reporter hat and put on my opinion hat. This is a great idea, right? This should be going forward. The idea that all athletic directors have is a shorter contract for coaches, 4 or 5 years, maybe even less, with a lower guaranteed salary, but with higher incentives. If you reach this and that, your salary will climb. This is not, completely unusual either, Matt. We saw LSU do this deal with Ed Orgeron. When they hired him from interim to head coach, he had this incentive-laden deal. It was low. I can't remember what it was, like $3.5 million salary, $4 million salary, which was very low at the time in the SEC. But he could get up to like $7-8 million if you reached all these things. And that's what does need to happen going forward. Here's the problem. Not everybody's doing that. And so when your competition for a coach isn't doing that, you're going to have a problem getting quality candidates, because the market right now is the market. And but I think it's a great idea, and we've actually saw it, Matt. I'll say we saw it this past year, or 2 years ago, I should say. Mike Elko was hired at Texas A&M under a contract that is very heavy incentive laden. I think he makes around $7 million a year. But he can get up to 12, 13 million a year if he hits all these incentives. So we have seen some of that. Now, here's the funny part. Mike Elko's probably getting a new contract this year because they're on a roll, right? And his contract will be 10 plus million. It'll be fully guaranteed. It won't be incentive based. And that's the problem, is that everybody's not going to follow suit with this contract structure that the governor's referring to.
And the interesting thing is, you say Elko's earned now the big contract, right? But you're ultimately going to tether yourself to a giant contract. So it feels a bit unavoidable. All right, last thing for you, and Ross Dellinger's our guest, Yahoo Sports. By the way, he's got an amazing piece up right now, a giant feature about what all transpired starting from the end of the A&M game Saturday all the way through what's been a topsy-turvy week. So go read it at Yahoo right now. I retweeted it a bit ago. It's very clear that the athletic director right now does not have the support of the governor. There's a bit of unrest, obviously, because they're about to hire a new university president. So how much does the instability with that AD spot impact this coaching search?
Probably not as much, Matt, as it used to. I think the coaches have gotten so big in college football. They're paid so much. They have, just big names, right? And they just they've kind of superseded their athletic director, right? They're the more important person. There's a lot of coaches that don't work for the athletic director, right? The athletic director works for the coach. So these days, it's not probably as quite important, but you can bet, and we've started to see this, by the way, and I believe it was in Brian Kelly's contract, that if something happens with the AD, whether they're fired or whatever, a new hire's made, that gets worked into a coach's contract. And is sort of one of those clauses where a coach can get out of the contract easier. So look for that to be a point during this negotiation, whoever the new coach might be. Look for that to be a point of contention. But I'll go back to the alignment. I think every coach, to a degree, especially this time and age where we're in this era of athlete compensation and rev share, where you need so many resources and finances, need as much as possible. You need alignment. You want alignment from the university president to the board to the AD. And although LSU's hiring the president just next week, I know they don't have a president right now.
Yeah.
The board, is the board, and right, it gets very political there. And obviously, the governor is involved with the board, and the AD was just eviscerated publicly by the governor. So the alignment is not the best right now,
to say the least. At Ross Dellinger is where you can get him on Twitter, X. Go read his feature. It's fantastic. It's up right now. Great work as always. We appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.